Anyone who has been watching my channel should find it no surprise that this Operation Epic Fury attack on Iran happened on 2/28. And by the way, look here, this news video is 6 minutes 11 seconds long for your 611. And it of course should come as no surprise because of what I said in my video about Epic 3 weeks ago, and what I said in my video about James Van Der Beek when I mentioned that 2/28 is 9/11, 84 days into our country's existence. Our 9/11 with our big 8/4. And of course, Epic opened on the 9/11 7/6. Of course, George Bush Jr. birth date 7/6, the 9/11 president. And you know, I had that whole road map with Epic leading to destruction. And lo and behold, on 2/28, we get the Iran attack, Operation Epic Fury. They just had to put Epic in the name right after Epic was released. I mean, come on now. So yes, remember that Epic opened on February 20th as a 1-week exclusive IMAX engagement. And then on the 27th, it opened in wider release. Remember how that February 20th date paints an incredible roadmap? And on the same date that Epic got its wider release, Scream 7 came out, directed by Kevin Williamson, the guy who created Dawson's Creek. James Van Der Beek, the star of that show, just died on the 42nd day of the year. He was born on the 67th day of the year. Our Elvis number, 6 times 7 is 42. And by the way, Scream, all about Sydney Prescott. Got the press in her name like Presley. And Sydney, Australia is like Seattle in a way. As much like Seattle, it is nicknamed the Emerald City. So yes, here we have Kevin Williamson, born on Pi Day in the year 1965. We're about to have another blood moon on 3/3. And of course, we just had the Pi Day blood moon last year, 17 days after Michelle Trachtenberg's death on 2/26. Now remember how I showed that Kevin Williamson's full name, Kevin Meade Williamson, equals 216 in ordinal. Also interesting to note that it equals 1944 in reverse Sumerian, because 1944 is the year of D-Day, and this year on 6/12, there's that Spielberg movie Disclosure Day, sort of like D-Day, but the 216. And wouldn't you know, Operation Epic Fury gives us our 216 as well. Just like Kevin Meade Williamson, whose movie opened the same day that Epic went into wider release, starring Neve Campbell as Sydney Prescott. Of course, it's a well-known fact that Elvis's full name also equals 216. And as I pointed out in my previous video, Epic also equals our 33. 77 in Latin, Seattle Slew's birth date in reverse satanic, the 198 President Trump number, or our beast number. Now, if you want the full rundown on Epic and how it paints a roadmap to destruction, go watch that video. It's not very long. And again, I've never watched one moment of Dawson's Creek, but James Van Der Beek played Dawson Leary. Now, if you want all the codes on Vanderbeek, go to my 2 videos about him. That's not what this is about, but I'm just showing you that Dawson Leary equals 141. Just like World War III equals 141. Just like Seattle Slew equals 141. And by the way, all 3 of them equal the 156 in reverse too. You know how that connects to 9/11 twice. So again, pretty interesting, right? That Kevin Williamson's second ever film as a director, he wrote all these other Scream movies, comes out the same day that Epic goes into wider release and the day before the Iran thing, with Dawson Leary, the character he created, equaling the same as World War III and Seattle Slew in gematria. Operation Epic Fury. Sidney Prescott. I mean, come on. Can't you see how interwoven all this is? And he was born on Pi Day. We're about to have another blood moon right after last year's Pi Day blood moon. 17 days after Michelle Trachtenberg died. She was a star on the WB, which is the channel Dawson's Creek aired on. Buffy the Vampire Slayer aired on that channel. A show I actually did watch. And by the way, speaking of Michelle Trachtenberg, not only did she die 17 days before the Pi Day blood moon, she was born 17 days before a blood moon. 2/17s, like 2/17, you're the fire horse. And also, we just had Bill Clinton talking about the whole Epstein thing the other day. Well, she was a youth representative for the launch of an anti-drug campaign with President Bill Clinton, number 42. And I've mentioned this before, but she even voiced a character in some animated show. The character's name was Blood Moon. I mean, come on now. Now in Scream 7, Sidney Prescott has a daughter for the first time, played by Isabel May. Sort of like, Mayday. Well, just like Dawson Leary, World War III, and Seattle Slew, Isabel May equals 156 in reverse. We also have our 5/22 Memphis founding date, the Gift Tower Sacrifice air date, our big 888 Beast System number, our 33, like Epic, our 402, 42. You know how big that number is. And by the way, I have something big coming out about the 42, and when I say that, I mean the April 2nd date. But that's for a very soon coming video. We also have our 57. Remember, Michelle Trachtenberg died on the 57th day of the year, 226, and Seattle Slew died on 5/7, the 127th day of the year. And while that April 2nd video is coming, I can't neglect to mention that 402 is the 322nd composite for your skull and bones. And in Chaldean, we have another 33 because it's 21, and the 21st composite is 33. The 21st prime is 73, your EL number. 21 is also your 8th Fibonacci, and your 6th triangular 86. And again, I'm not going to get into all the numbers and connections. The name Sidney Prescott should be connection enough. We have our 66 twin number. The 192nd day of the year is 711. 7 times 11, you're 77. This is the 26 square, pointing to the year 2026. It's also your 6776. And we have, of course, our big upside down 91101 number. Just Prescott, our backwards 611. This is something else I already showed. Dawson's Creek gives us our big 137 number, the 33rd prime. Also our 47, our 1122 JFK assassination date, 6/7. 822 Irina Zarutska death date, backwards 228. By the way, the Irina Zarutska thing has come up again because in Trump's State of the Union, which by the way he got to the podium for at 6/11, Pacific time. How interesting, right? Anya Zarutska was there. Irina Zarutska's mother. Interesting that her name would be Anya. So the Zarutska thing was just brought up again. She was there with Erica Kirk. So how interesting that her initials are AZ, like Arizona, where Erica Kirk resides. Also, 126. You know why that's a big date. 166 is also the 127th composite for, again, our Pearl Harbor numbers. 7-6, backwards 6-7. There was a character on Buffy the Vampire Slayer named Anya who was deathly afraid of bunny rabbits, which, by the way, the whole stupid Bad Bunny thing with the Elvis Super Bowl reminded me of her character. So, again, interesting that Irina Zarutska's mother pops up and her name is Anya. Not a common name. In fact, there was an episode of the series that was actually a musical because there's a demon who places a curse on everyone where they break out into song. And when you know, it was season 6, episode 7, our Elvis number. And it aired on November 6, 2001. Our backwards 6-11, upside down 9-11. And in that episode, Anya sings about bunnies and how terrifying they are. Again, reminding me of Bad Bunny performing at the Super Bowl, which I did not watch, of course. Now, one more thing to point out about Dawson's Creek real quick. Michelle Williams played Jen Lindley. Again, definitely some interesting numbers with that name. We got our 110, our 47, our 160, our 66, our 33. And Michelle Williams' full name just so happens to equal 226, Michelle Trachtenberg's death date. Her name is also Michelle. And of course, it points to this year, as I've shown ad nauseum. We even have a 228 over here and our 67. Michelle Williams even has a 6-11 connection because there's this movie called The Station Agent, and she plays a love interest for Peter Dinklage in the movie. Peter Dinklage, of course, born on 6/11. Now, also remember in my Vanderbeek video, I showed that he started in the Rules of Attraction with Jessica Biel, and her birth date is March 3rd. So she'll turn 44, the kill number, on the date of the upcoming blood moon. She, of course, is married to Justin Timberlake. He played Private Abilene in the incredibly coded film Southland Tales about nukes and the end of the world, among many, many other coded things. Biel also got her start on the WB in the show Seventh Heaven. And if you type out the 7th, we get our 888 Beast System number. 148th day of the year is my birthday, 5/28. Also fictional character Donnie Darko's birth date, who connects to Trump. 60, what Super Bowl did we just have? It's also the 42nd composite, and the 60th composite is 84. Also remember that 5/8 is the 128th day of the year. It is Erica's wedding date, the Stand premiere date. You know all the codes with the Stand and Dorgan in the news lately. It's also Deep Impact's release date. Robert Duvall was in that film. He died on Seattle Slew's birth date, 203, which is the 156th composite, our double 9/11 number. And 5/8, by the way, the composite is 81. 81st day of the year is 3/22, Michelle Trachtenberg's reverse birth date, as she was born on the 284th day of the year, leaving 81 days remaining in the year. 81 plus 81, of course, is 162, our 611 number. And Jessica Biel's full name, 142. The 142nd day of the year is 522, Memphis founding date, the Tower Sacrifice air date. We have our 317, which is, of course, is our big 137, our backwards 713. Final Destination opened on 317, which connects to 228. I'll get to that in a minute. Kurt Russell, born on 317. We have our backwards 911 here. And by the way, don't forget that 317 is the 66th prime. Just Jessica Biel without her middle name gives us our 203. Again, the 156 composite in the same cipher that Seventh Heaven gives us our 203. And getting back to the Final Destination thing, remember Ali Larter from the first two Final Destination films. She mentions the 6-7 in the first one, born on February 28th, 1976. So she turned 50 yesterday. Now, of course, Iran was originally Persia. That changed after the fall of the Sasanian Empire. And by the way, isn't it interesting that Sasanian sounds so much like assassin, and here it's even spelled with assassin in the word, ass in. And the Sasanian Empire was founded by Ardashir I. His name gives us some more interesting numbers. Our 5-1 Mayday, our 156 again, in that same cipher, I might add. 66 twin number, 522. 282 is 10-9, the 282nd day of the year. Yale Skull and Bones founding date. Can also be your 162 or 216, depending on which 2 you multiply by the 8. And again, our 4-2. Now, Ardashir was the founder of the Sasanian Empire, the last empire of ancient Iran. He overthrew the Arsacid dynasty and established the Sassanian dynasty. Afterwards, he called himself the so-called King of Kings, which of course is blasphemy. There's only one King of Kings, and that is Jesus Christ. Now it says here his reign was from 224 to 242, but his actual coronation was in 226. There's that number again. Born in 180 and died in February of the year 242. Interesting considering what just happened in February. The House of Sasan, which of course sounds a lot like Satan, ruled over Persia or Iran from 224 to 651 AD. Now, there is no definitive one date for the Sasanian Empire's end, just that it ended in the year 651. So, going from the 1st of 651 to the 1st of this year, 2026, gives us some pretty incredible numbers. 502,206 days. That is our 522 Memphis founding date, Tower Sacrifice air date, with our 26 for the year 26. Now that's a pretty huge length of time, so I ask you, what are the incredible odds of those numbers adding up like that? Pretty astronomical. It's also a total of 1,375 years. That is our big 137 number. And the 137th day of the year is 517. Add 5 to that. Get 522, Memphis's founding date. And it's also a total of 16,500 months. 165, who was born on the 165th day of the year, Donald Trump. And by the way, 651, when the Sasanian Empire met its end, has the 165 in it, and it's also your backwards 156, which of course connects to 9/11 twice. Now, just out of curiosity, I went from the first of the 651 year to the 228 date, and wouldn't you know, it's 502,264 days. That again is our Memphis founding date, with our 6-4, which is a very big number this year, as the Space Needle turns 64 years old this year. So all around, this is lining up pretty perfectly here. Again, we have our 137, so that'd be 517 plus 5, gives us our 522 Memphis founding date again. So it's our Memphis founding date with our 127 or 12-7 Pearl Harbor numbers. Again, perfectly lining up. And speaking of perfect, we have the 165 with the 12-7 numbers as well. Now, an important date for Ardashir is April 28th, 224, as he faced the army of Artabanus IV, where the Parthian Shahanshah was defeated and killed in battle. Now, aside from April 28th being an important Trump-coded date, I wanted to see how long it would be from that battle to yesterday. 658,108 days. 658 plus 108 is 766. Your 76 with your 66 twin number, also your backwards 67. And that might not mean much by itself, but remember this number from 651 to yesterday? Add up 502 and 264 and you get the same number, 766. Again, pretty big odds. Also, 1,801 years, 10 months. Your 1/8 Elvis birth date with your 110. You know how that connects to the World Trade Center. And 21,622 months. Your 21684 with your backwards 226. Again, all around perfect numbers. Yazdegerd III was the last Sasanian king, or so-called king of kings, from 632 to 651, ascending the throne at the age of 8. He lacked authority and reigned as a figurehead, whilst real power was in the hands of the army commanders, courtiers, and powerful members of the aristocracy who engaged in internecine warfare. The empire was weakened severely by these internal conflicts, resulting in invasions from the east and the west. Yazdegerd was unable to contain the Rashidun conquest of Iran and spent most of his reign fleeing from one province to another in the vain hope of raising an army. He finally met his end at the hands of a miller near Merv in 651, bringing an end to the last pre-Islamic Iranian empire after more than 400 years of rule. And by the way, after that April 28th victory, Ardashir began conquering the land that he called Iransar, the realm of the Iranians. And Iransar gives us our big 8-4, of course, our 39. Remember that 39 is the 26th composite, our 5-1 May Day pagan sacrifice date. And eventually that's where the name Iran came from. Here you can see the form of the word Iran, short for Iransar. So a lot of interesting history with Persia, Iran, and of course the Sasanian Empire. And one more bit of information to get to. Of course, we just had the death of Robert Carradine. Of course, his brother David died way back in June 3rd, 2009. Well, guess what? If we go from David Carradine's death to Robert Carradine's death, 6,110 days, or our 611. Pretty crazy, right? And of course, Robert Carradine died on the backwards 322 Skull and Bones. Now, Robert unalived himself, and his brother David did too, although his was said to be accidental. And it was because of the autoerotic type. I don't know if I can say that on YouTube, so. But that equals our 288 and our 108, our 126, our 36, our 666. Drop the 1. And of course, that 288 in ordinal is very important because it is the 226th composite. 226, Michelle Trachtenberg, death date 2026 code. And remember, with the 126, the 126 composite is 165, Trump born on the 165th day of the year. Now, the weird connections don't stop there, because in 2009, the same year where David Carradine died of AA, this film, World's Greatest Dad, came out, starring Robin Williams as Lance Clayton, a single father and high school teacher who has a very weird, sex-obsessed son. And check this out, because one night Lance discovers that his son Kyle has died in an AA accident in his bedroom, the same way David Carradine died, the same year. To salvage his son's dignity, he stages Kyle's death as unaliving himself. He hangs Kyle in a closet and posts a fake note on his body. Now, this film was released on July 24th on video on demand providers before a limited theatrical release on August 21st, 2009. So, it came out very shortly after David Carradine's death. In fact, if you want some pretty solid airtight evidence that David Carradine's death was not an accident but a sacrifice, go from his death date to the video on demand release of World's Greatest Dad. 51 days. 5/1 is May Day, the day of pagan sacrifice. And it's also 1 month, 21 days. The 121st day of the year is May Day, the day of pagan sacrifice. Like, come on. For real, man. And then from David's death to the limited theatrical release of the film, 79 days, Trump's current age when David's brother unalived himself, and the age he will be when Washington State may be sacrificed. And get a load of this, because World's Greatest Dad was shot in Seattle, Washington, largely at the former F.A. McDonald School in Wallingford. Now, Daryl Sabara plays Kyle, the son who AAs himself. Take a look at his birth date. June 14th, 1992. Trump's birth date, 6/14. Currently 33 years old, and he'll be that old when 6/11 rolls around. World's greatest dad shot in Seattle. The 6/11 between David Carradine and Robert Carradine's deaths. The AA connection. Now, going from Daryl's birth date to David Carradine's death date, there's some interesting numbers all around here. You got the 198 there, which equals President Trump, also equals Beast. 16 years, 11 months, 20 days. Your upside down 9/11/01 number, 1120, is also Erica Kirk's birth date. Most importantly, though, 203 months, 20 days. Add those up, get 223, which of course is David's brother Robert's death date. And also 885 weeks and 3 days. 885 plus 3 is 888, our Beast system number. So our Beast system number and our Beast number. And from Trump's birth date to Daryl's, 16,802 days. 168, remember the 168th composite is 216, you're 84. Add 2 to 84, it's 86. Like they're gonna 86 Trump. And Daryl Sabara still relates to Trump because 195, Trump's ear clip, and Shannon Doherty's death date was the 195th day of a leap year. 102nd day of the year is Shannon Doherty's birth date, also the 10/2, Donnie Darko prophecy date. 39, Michelle Trachtenberg died at the age of 39, and 39 is the 26th composite, pointing to the year 26. 6/12, backwards 216. Robin Williams' shady love interest in the film is played by Alexi Gilmore. Remember that Gilmore is the last name of that famous Satanist. And with her name, we have damn near the same connections that we had with Sabara, because in the cipher we had the 195, we have the 21684. The 72s, 72 is the 51st composite, 5/1 is your May Day date. 135, remember we had the 102 with Sabara, and 135 is the 102nd composite. And speaking of the 195 and the 102, the title of the film, World's Greatest Dad, has the 195 and the 102. 149th composite, JFK born on the 149th day of the year, 18th. Prime, that is. Now, as the film takes place in Seattle, going from its release on video on demand to 6/11 this year, 6,166 days. Drop that 666 number. Or keep the 1, and 6 plus 1 is 7. 6 plus 6 is 12, 712. Your Pearl Harbor numbers, your buildings 127 numbers. And again, the 1 is meaningless, so 6 times 1 times 6 times 6 equals 216. And 16 plus 10 plus 18 is your 44 kill number. It's also your upside down 9/11/01 numbers with an 18. And you can also read this as 218, and 2 days before 218 would be 216. and go from the video on demand release to 8/4, 6/2/20. That's your backwards 226. Of course, 6/22 is also the 173rd day of the year for your big 137 number. 17 plus 11 is your 28, a perfect number. 204 plus 11, 215, Seattle Slew birth date. Which of course means if the end date were included, this would add up to 216, 8/4. And our big 888 beast system number with our 8/4. And since World's Greatest Dad stars Robin Williams, going from his death date on 8/11/2014 to Robert Carradine's death date, 4214 days. You have a 421 Seattle Space Needle opening date in there, and backwards you have a 412 Shannon Doherty birth date. And you also have a backwards 216 and 611 together. And there's more interesting numbers with Robin Williams, like going from his death date to 8/4, 4376 days. 4 plus 3 is 7, 7 plus 6 is 13, 713. Trump's ear clip date, Shannon's death date. 43 plus 76 is 119, you're backwards 911. And a 611, 4322, you have your 322 skull and bones number in there. 4 plus 3 is 7, 2 plus 2 is 4, 7/4 this year, the big 250th year anniversary of the country. 11 years, 10 months, your 111 and your 110 both together can also be Michelle Trachtenberg's death date, if you say it like they do in most parts of the world, 10/11. And exactly 142 months, the 142nd day of the year is Memphis's founding date, the Tower Sacrifice air date, which Michelle Trachtenberg starred in. Now, in the movie World's Greatest Dad, all the people who denounced Lance's son at school acted like they knew him because they were so touched by the note that Lance wrote. So Lance just kept going on, letting them believe the lie, though at the end he realized what he was doing was wrong, and he told the truth because they were a bunch of people who just wanted to latch on, a bunch of hangers-on. And at the end, he watches a zombie movie with his son's only friend and his neighbor, Bonnie. Basically, the only two people left in his life that like him. Now, his neighbor is played by Mitzi McCall, but look at her birth name, Mitzi Joan Steiner. You know about the Stein, how that equals Elvis. And get a load of this piece of trivia. She was known for her work with her husband, Charlie Brill, and their performance on The Ed Sullivan Show on February 9th, 1964. The same episode that featured the first appearance of the Beatles on the show. And you know all about their codes. Her stage name, Mitzi McCall, equals 121. Again, the 121st day of the year is May Day, the day of pagan sacrifice. Also 1056 in reverse Sumerian, which is your 156, which connects to, of course, 9/11 twice. She was born September 9th in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the PP. And wouldn't you know, she died on 8/8, the Lionsgate portal date, the same year Trump got his ear clip and Shannon Doherty died. Well, guess when David and Robert Carradine's brother Keith was born? 8/8/1949. So the connections keep on coming. And in that movie, Lance and Kyle's last name is Clayton. In Latin, that gives us our 614 Trump birth date. Again, the hardest cipher to find matches in. Now, one more thing I wanted to touch upon here. Robert Carradine starred in this film Tag, the assassination game. Of course, Tag would be 21-7. So, your 217, year of the fire horse number, weapons number. Again, weapons released on the 8/8. Lionsgate portal date, just like Robert Carradine's brother Keith, born on that date. And while Clayton equaled 614 in Latin, assassination equals 611. So, Tag, the 611 game. And check out the cast. Linda Hamilton from the Terminator films stars in it as Susan Swayze. And Bruce Abbott plays Lauren Gersh, who starts taking the game too seriously and using a real gun. He equals your 121. Remember, that's Mayday. Your 5/8, Erica wedding date, among other things. Your 149, the 149th day of the year, is JFK's birthday. You know what happened to him. This is the assassination game. And Carradine plays Alex Marsh. 101 in ordinal. 101, of course, is the 26th prime. So, of course, that points to the year 2026, and Carradine died in 2026. We also have our 142 in reverse. Again, Memphis' founding date, the 142nd day of the year. The Gift Tower Sacrifice, air date. And Susan Swayze, our big 137 number in ordinal. And remember about the 124. The composite is 162. Now, the movie came out April 23rd, 1982. Go from that date to Carradine's death, 16,012 days. That, of course, is your backwards 216, drop the 1, or your 612, George Bush Sr. birth date. And again, it's the assassination game. Also consider this April. Add 31, and you land on 5/1, your Mayday sacrifice date. And we also have a 228. Elvis died on the 220th day of the year with our 73 EL number. They consider Elvis their so-called god. Strangely enough, if you go from the release date of the film to 6/11 this year, the possible assassination of Seattle, it's basically the same numbers, 16,120 days. You're backwards 216, drop the 1, or your 612. Also a backwards 9/11 with the 44 kill number. And 44 plus 1 plus 19 is 64. The Seattle Space Needle turned 64 this year. And I've shown many times in my past videos why 64 is such a huge number. And again, it's called the Assassination Game, the movie. Your 529 JFK birth date with your crown 19. And if we go from the film's release to 8/4, 16,174 days. 16 plus 174 is 190. The 190th day of the year is 7/9. Trump will be 7/9 when Seattle is possibly assassinated. Also, 161 plus 74 is 8/23. August 23rd is the big earthquake date in Escape from LA that separates LA from the country, like the chop zone might be separated on 6/11. Also, Kobe Bryant's birth date. Like Epic, Kobe equals 33. 67 in Latin. 44 plus 3 plus 12 is 59. Yesterday, 228, the 59th day of the year. Of course, that connects to Elvis because Elvis died on the 228th day of the year. And of course, it's when the whole Iran thing started. The 9/11 84th date of this country's existence, it was. And what is May 31st plus 12 days? 6/12. Or you're backwards, 2/16, 8, 4. Again, tag the assassination game. And by the way, you know all this has an Elvis connection because Nick Castle is the director of Tag the Assassination Game, and he played Michael Myers in John Carpenter's Halloween, and worked with Carpenter many times afterwards, including on Escape from New York, which he co-wrote. You know about the predictive programming in that film for 9/11. So, yes, this film is definitely connected, no matter how obscure it is. And he was born in Kingsport, Tennessee, born on September 21st. That, of course, is Stephen King's birthday as well, and that is the date of Charlie Kirk's memorial. Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated. In fact, just to show you another quick little connection here, going from the movie's release to the Charlie Kirk so-called assassination, 520 months, 18 days. Consider this May 20th. 18 days later is 6/7. And to make matters even crazier, this film has long been on nothing but VHS. There were never any DVDs or Blu-rays, but it just came out on a special edition remastered Blu-ray, limited to 2,000 copies, on February 24th, 2026, new release. And that's the day, of course, after Robert Carradine died. Now, how absolutely insane is that? And I think Carradine even participated in the release. So, and one day after the release of the assassination game, Carradine was bumped off. 6,110 days after his brother David supposedly died in an accident of autoerotic asphyxiation. So, all around weird stuff. And I know this is a long video, but I haven't been doing many videos lately, so I went to cover a few different things. All glory to God, and thank you for watching.